Hey guys, red and black greetings. This is Flamengo. Welcome to the Paparazzo Rubro-Negro channel. Today, in a special partnership with David Sharp from Antenados na Jogada, we greet you this morning. Please subscribe to both Paparazzo Rubro-Negro and Antenados na Jogada channels. We have a lot to talk about here, and at the end of our analysis, we'll also bring you the Flamengo mixed zone. 1 Portuguesa 1. Flamengo's first game debut in the Carioca Championship. Iago saved Flamengo, Iago scored the equalizer, and Flamengo almost got a penalty in the last minute. The referee and video assistant referee should have called a penalty. For me, it was clear, and Flamengo would have won. The game already started with Flamengo being harmed in the Carioca Championship, but it's okay. I think it started with a draw. It could have been better. Alashin could have scored both goals in the first half, but ended up not taking advantage of the opportunity. But look, our guest has arrived, David Sharp. Let's put him on the screen. Hey, Antonado, how are you? Listen.
GLOBO. Yeah, you like it, right? Do you like this jersey?
This jersey moves on its own.
This jersey here was asking to come along on the trip, wasn't it? This jersey was just sitting in the closet, man. It was dying to be worn again. It's been a while since the trip, this one.
This jersey walks by itself. Come on, man, for God's sake.
It walked so much during the trip, it stayed in the closet for 6 months. Here, look.
Man, you who are openly right-wing wearing a Globo shirt, that's a joke, man.
But it's not from Globo.
It's Globo Biscuit. It's different, but still Globo.
But it's Globo, damn it. It's from Globo if it's from Globo. I'll take it off right now. I'll go shirtless.
Go ahead. You can take it off. You can take it off. No, not shirtless. No.
What? I have to go shirtless and take off my shirt here. Why put on another one?
Let's get right to it so this doesn't drag on. This year, São Paulo's relegation in the Paulista is happening, huh?
Including, huh?
Who knows? Maybe even impeachment, financial situation. It's serious over there. Look, if you're not careful, São Paulo won't make it this year. Only Flamengo and São Paulo have never been relegated. Santos and Inter went down. There used to be 4, right? It used to be Flamengo, Inter, Santos, and São Paulo, but now only Flamengo and São Paulo remain. This year, Flamengo might be the only one never relegated. But I want to ask you this so we can get straight to the point. Abel's first whining. First, it's a strategy. They start the year by pressuring referees and blaming Flamengo, knowing the Brazilian championship begins in January. He's already pressuring the referees against Flamengo, mentioning Flamengo with an asterisk and other things. That video assistant referee has already improved compared to the Libertadores. It's Abel's strategy. And then I'll ask you another question. Is Abel obsolete? Is Abel turning into Luxemburgo?
Abel is turning into Luxemburgo. They used to say that about Mourinho, remember?
Luxemburgo was a great coach who won titles and is still praised today. Even Ronaldo, the phenomenon, called him excellent, but noted he had issues managing the group. But Luxemburgo had incredible success. He won a lot of titles in a row, and then it seems like he didn't evolve. He couldn't keep evolving. First, it's Abel's strategy. Second, it's just Luxemburgo being himself, criticizing for the sake of it because of what happened. After that, Luxemburgo couldn't have great jobs in Brazilian football anymore.
Mourinho Portuguese. They used to say it was Luxemburgo and Rafa Benitez, that Rafa Benitez was also the Luxemburgo who speaks Spanish. Do you remember that? But I don't think that's true for Abel, and here's why. Abel didn't have much time. Just like Luxemburgo at his peak, Luxemburgo had a much longer peak than Abel. Luxemburgo coached Real Madrid. Luxemburgo did spectacular work with several teams during the 90s and even in the 2000s. Even that Santos team which won the Brazilian championship, and right after that he was hired by Real Madrid and at Real Madrid. I really think it went to his head and he went downhill. He thought he was bigger than Brazilian football. I don't know if Abel thinks he's bigger than Brazilian football. I don't know if that's it. What I think is happening is that Abel has hit his ceiling. Abel can't go any further. His work is already done. He is a coach, charismatic despite all that stuff about him, all the whining, the complaints, the ejections. He's charismatic and makes the team play competitively. But we also have to remember that Palmeiras has a very strong team, a very strong squad. because Palmeiras has a lot of money. So there are these two things. Palmeiras has a lot of money, but they also have a coach who is very competitive. Now, Leila herself had already said, I think about 2 years ago, that Abel was the president of Palmeiras' football. Do you remember that interview with Leila? That Abel was the one who decided.
I remember.
She even said that on Roda Viva. It was one of those open television programs, and that Abel was the one who decided everything, that he was the one who understood.
Leila promised she wouldn't criticize Abel when he gave that interview at the press conference, when he said that he only gave explanations to his wife, to his mother, and to Leila Pereira. In other words, Abel and Leila are like one and the same. Now, to criticize Zico and BAP Leila was fine with it, but when it comes to criticizing Abel Ferreira himself, when he was disrespectful to a woman at the press conference, she said nothing. I'll also wrap up this topic quickly for us. For me, commenting on someone's appearance, whether to men or women, isn't sexism or feminism. It's unrelated to those issues.
Nothing to do with it, nothing to do with it. That's it. I think it's already been dealt with, right? Even she herself didn't drag out the subject. It ended there. I think it's best left at that, because taking this to the side of feminism is really ridiculous. Leila really surprised me when she took a jab at Abel. That was already at the end of last year, right? When Abel said something about an asterisk, like, oh, that Palmeiras doesn't win any titles with an asterisk, he said it again.
He said it again yesterday.
At last year's finals press conference, Abel said something and Leila replied, no, that's not true. The refereeing didn't influence it and Palmeiras lost because they deserved to lose, and that's it. It was the first time I saw Leila go against Abel. But Leila is really totally dependent on Abel's work, right? Because Abel arrived, if I'm not mistaken, before Leila became president, right? Abel arrived in 2020 and Leila wasn't president yet. I still think it was still the previous one. What was the name again? Gagliotti. It's Gagliotti, right?
Including against Defensa y Justicia, the Recopa, if I'm not mistaken. Abel actually lost some titles. That's important.
He lost several at Allianz Parque, including that year, so Palmeiras ended up as champions. With Andreas' mistake, Palmeiras was eliminated. Libertadores champion. Palmeiras lost the Recopa Sudamericana, lost the Copa do Brasil at home to a small team. I think it was Ituano. They lost their own, and there was another Paulista competition at home too. Palmeiras lost multiple titles that year.
They were eliminated by São Paulo in the Copa do Brasil.
That was another year. That happened later, that 2021, no.
Palmeiras gets so embarrassed too, man.
And that's what I was saying here, Abel. He has the ability to be charismatic. I believe so. The team likes him, which for me is the most important thing for a coach. It's managing the team well, and I think the team does, from what I keep hearing all the time. In most cases, the players like him. He manages the squad well, and he makes the team competitive. That's it, nothing more. But the rest, he's a very limited coach, right? And as Leila herself said, he's the president of Palmeiras football. He vetoes a lot of signings that could be really good for Palmeiras, right? For example, Jorginho was offered to Palmeiras in January last year, and he didn't want him, because if he's the president of Palmeiras football and Jorginho isn't, it was Leila who was rejected, Anderson Barros, not Abel. So really the idea of choosing young players, okay? But there has to be a mix, and there have to be young players who are more like, let's say, Almada, for example. Luis Henrique who came to Botafogo and already changed the face of the team, bringing Aníbal Moreno, bringing players like that.
It's his strategy to talk about the refereeing again. And the other thing is he's either obsolete or he was never all that.
I think he was never all that he was never all that. He was never a guy like Luxemburgo, for example, who dominated, saw the game, read it tactically, made changes, right? With the substitutions during the game, Abel was never like that. Do you see the titles that Palmeiras won? 2020, the worst final in the history of the Libertadores. 2021, they won because Andres slipped and messed it up. Flamengo played better in that game, even though they were going through a tougher time then, worse than Palmeiras at the end of the year. 2023 Brazilian Championship, awful during Botafogo's worst choke. Anyway, Abel's titles, most of them were very random, let's say, for the squad that Palmeiras has. So it's not that he... Luxemburgo was really good, but then Abel took over. I think Luxemburgo reached his peak at Palmeiras and was never that great. He has his virtues, like I said, but he was never an exceptional guy like Jorge Jesus. There's no comparison, honestly.
And this year now, he had 700 million in signings. He was supposed to, right? He shouldn't have come up short in everything.
He signed several players who weren't unanimous choices then or now. They weren't guaranteed to deliver anything. Several players there, like a lot of people said, are young, promising, and all that, but they don't have that experience to come in and be decisive. That made all the difference. Many people were worried Flamengo, with several old guys, wouldn't keep up with Palmeiras by season's end. Remember when it was the duo Flaco and what's his name? Roque, right? Vitor Roque, Flaco Roque. They were unstoppable and no one could stop those two young guys. Palmeiras has a young team and people think they'll dominate, but that's not the case. The old guys, in quotes from Flamengo, played really well. They showed they know how to step up when it matters. So I really think that's it.
Is it strategy or not?
I don't think so. I think Abel is, yes, a strategist. If we remember in 2023, I was also covering Botafogo a lot that year during their downfall. The biggest choke in the history of the Brasileirão. Abel used to say that even midway through the second half of the season, long before the championship ended, he would claim, no, the championship is already decided. Botafogo won't lose this title anymore. And he used that as a strategy to make Botafogo feel really confident and end up stumbling. And that's exactly what happened. He used the same tactic at the end of the year in the Brasileirão against Flamengo, who had already won. But Palmeiras was honestly doing badly and didn't even do their part, right? It didn't work. I think he has strategies, but there's also a lot of whining. The asterisk thing is just a joke, right?
Hey, David, let me ask you something. I don't know if you're following the situation with this dispute. The dispute for Almada, they said that Palmeiras was considering a 6-month loan for Thiago Almada, which could possibly happen. Then there was talk about Benfica being interested, but that was already denied. Even Diario Record already reported on it, right? That Benfica isn't interested. Here, look, Diario Record says Benfica isn't interested. The interest from Benfica in Almada was denied. But Napoli from Italy, they're actually interested. Flamengo made inquiries. I confirmed it with a source close to the board. Flamengo made inquiries, especially when the news came out. Look how things work. When the news came out that Palmeiras was going to sign him, Flamengo went to check. That's why I think there's a lot of maneuvering by agents. You know, that's what we have. That's the situation too. About Almada, who was a starter, he became a starter again at Atletico de Madrid. As soon as all this talk and searching started, Atletico de Madrid put him back in the game. He was a starter again. So in the last training session before the Copa del Rey round of 16 match against Deportivo La Coruña, according to the Spanish newspaper Marca. Okay, he should return. He's coming back to being a starter. So all of that. Having said all that, PVC, who in my opinion talked a lot of nonsense when I was talking about the pound issue, the dispute with Flamengo, he was practically an advisor. I said that. He was acting more as an advisor for Palmeiras and Leila than anything else and got a lot of flack because of it. A lot of people spoke badly and criticized PVC. One thing we can't deny is he has information about Palmeiras, right? He has information about Palmeiras, and he said the following: I would say that there's almost no chance of the deal happening. Atletico de Madrid doesn't have an executive who talks about it at Palmeiras. They deny that there was an offer. Where did it come from? The story came from the players' agents. The first thing I heard on Friday about Almada was everyone wants Almada, but it's unfeasible. And the information I got from a Flamengo executive is that when Flamengo inquired, they also found out it was unfeasible. They wanted 35 million euros and the player didn't want to return to South America. Contrary to some things that came out in the articles, then David, most likely Thiago Almada will stay in Europe. Some interesting European clubs denied Benfica, but there are others. Now, I'll let you discuss it since there was much criticism. Palmeiras will sign John Arias and Almada, but Flamengo isn't signing anyone or losing starters while Palmeiras is making moves. Flamengo is keeping its squad, sold players who weren't even on the roster and so on. Vinha himself, even though a lot of fans complained, wasn't even on the roster. I liked him, but he wasn't on the roster. Flamengo is signing players. They got defender Vitão for a high price, plus Andre, goalkeeper Gil, and Vicente. They may also sign defensive midfielder Marcos Antonio and are looking for a forward similar to Caio Jorge. And to add, it's more likely, according to the article I saw here, that Besiktas from Turkey or some other European team will sign John Arias. John Arias doesn't want to return to Brazil, but if he does, Fluminense is his top choice. That's what I'm saying. A lot of people were wanting to criticize Flamengo and Flamengo's signings, saying that Palmeiras was outmaneuvering them, that they were going to sign everyone under the sun. So far, Flamengo is leading.
That thing about Almada is pure speculation, just mid-season transfer rumors. You know, they call it preseason talk, total speculation. Everything I've found out, nothing pointed to Almada coming back to Brazilian football, not to Palmeiras, not to Flamengo, not to either of those two. Really not at all. It's all true, apparently, right? Of course, we can't be 100% sure, but everything seems true. That he wants to stay in Europe, that he doesn't want to come back to Brazil. He's been at Atletico de Madrid for 6 months, less than 6 months. So he still can.
Arias, both of them. Arias is also
there
very recently, yeah?
Exactly. A lot of speculation. They talk because they have to talk. There's nothing else. They just have to say something. So this story about Almada and also Arias himself, but specifically about Almada, he doesn't want to come back to Brazil. I made a video about it. I talked about it with the guys. Palmeiras did something, not sure what. Because Atletico, if someone offers 20 million, they'll sell, but he doesn't want to come back. Atletico doesn't want to sell right now. And if he leaves Atletico de Madrid, he'll go back to Lyon. There's that too. He was at Lyon, right? And he went to Atletico. He could go back to Lyon, or he could go to another club in Europe, like you're saying right now, coming back to Brazil. Man. But then if he comes back in the middle of the year, if he comes back next year, then they'll say, see? But I'm talking about now, in this window, January 2026. In this context, now Almada, I won't say it's impossible, but like 99.9, really unlikely.
Including talking about Almada. I'd like to hear your opinion regarding Botafogo's Sociedade Anônima do Futebol, the first meeting that took place there. Atlanta United and Major League Soccer did not and will not agree to make the remaining unpaid installments of Botafogo's Sociedade Anônima do Futebol for the purchase of Almada more flexible. His situation is getting complicated. People expected the transfer ban to end soon, but it's been a month. That's how things are for Botafogo. The situation is bad. David.
Really bad, right? We're seeing it in practice now. What people imagined last year turned out to be true.
He's on Collab here, channel tuned into the play. He's on Collab here on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, the goal is set. Adai. You'll see that the video is on Collab, so if it's on Collab, the name will show up there tuned into the play. Click there, go ahead and subscribe, but go ahead, say it.
Great. It was about Botafogo, right?
John.
Texter is in a tough situation. He spent most of last year on a roller coaster, right? There are a lot of corporate issues, cash flow problems, in short, a lot of business stuff that's really tough, right? They're hard for the general public to understand. I did an interview. In fact, I'm about to release that video, right? Since I didn't release it before, it could be interesting to release it now. It was actually at the Vasco vs Botafogo Brazil Cup game when I was there. I interviewed several Botafogo fans to understand their views on the Botafogo situation and all the news involving Texter, Eagle, and Leon. That woman there, anyway, all those people, I mean, I really couldn't tell that the Botafogo crowd, the fans, were understanding, you know? They were really lost. Oh, everything they're saying is fake news. I don't know what it is. It's the media trying to bring us down. And nothing is certain, really, nothing is certain. But it's such a hard thing to understand. And we kept thinking, right? Where is this going to lead? Botafogo has a strong team now and signed new players, but honestly, the signings weren't great. Last year's team was strong, but not as good as in 2024 when they won the Libertadores and Brazilian Championship. Where is this going? I don't know what it is, but here we are. It's a battle that is interfering even within the institution itself. Botafogo, football, and regatas, right? In the club association that went to court here to try to take control of part of the Sociedade Anônima do Futebol to interfere in the decisions. Anyway, there are a lot of things, a lot of details surrounding all of this, but Botafogo is weakened. That's the point we need to make clear here. Botafogo Papa is weakened. What, man? Savarino decided not to join Fluminense, though he was close to going. Alex Barbosa, the legendary Botafogo defender, a guy who plays his position, and, well, had that whole fight with Clito in last year's Carioca, lost a tooth. He's tough. He always goes in hard and strong. That's who he is. Several Botafogo players were also offered to Fluminense since Botafogo can't sign anyone because of the transfer ban. The situation with Almada, who didn't pay anything for the player who became a champion.
Andrew, developed by Botafogo, isn't joining them. He was at Gil Vicente, spoke with Botafogo, but changed his mind and is set to join Flamengo instead. They're just waiting for the guys from Gil Vicente to sign a goalkeeper so he can be released. He's avoiding Botafogo over financial concerns and fears missing out if he skips Flamengo and their transfer ban stays, leaving him without a club. So that's why he chose Flamengo and has already agreed to a pre-contract with Flamengo. Now they're trying to get him released. So before that, Botafogo is losing players left and right, and Fluminense too. If we stop to think about it, it's happening to several teams, right? Fluminense lost Thiago Silva, but it wasn't Thiago who wanted to leave. But while Flamengo is keeping its main team, its squad, its 16 starting players, the other clubs are losing players, man.
Yeah, for sure. And Savarino leaving, even though he didn't have a good year last year with Botafogo, but he's an idol, right? Maybe a lot of Botafogo fans even consider him the biggest idol of that generation, of that whole team. Back in 2024, when they won both competitions. It's a worrying situation, but the big question remains for Botafogo fans. Even though things are getting more complicated now, which is what seems to be happening, what's going on? Weren't the 2024 titles worth it? Wasn't it worth making all these moves, these maneuvers?
Right?
Yeah, right? Of course, they'll be relegated, but I'm talking about up until now. If, for example, they finish mid-table and don't compete for anything in 2026, I think it was worth it because it brought back something that Botafogo fans had never seen before.
You're saying that crime pays, right?
Yeah, so that's not really it, right? What I'm saying is this. It's not that it's not a crime, right? It is a crime.
It pays off in quotes because, come on.
I get what you meant, but it wasn't a crime. It wasn't illegal at that time. With financial fair play, many Botafogo fans and even Flamengo fans were mocking Flamengo over that fair play request, right?
This week, journalists claimed Botafogo won the championship due to payment defaults.
Yeah, if they didn't pay, Almada defaulted exactly, right? But that's it.
Hey, thanks, brother. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. You even asked me to be quicker today. We're recording in the middle of the night to release it at 5 in the morning. You're going to be in the collab. I'll add you to the collab, and you just accept it so people can subscribe to Antenados and join in, okay? And I'm going to let everyone follow along here now during this premiere. I'm going to let everyone follow along. The mixed zone of the Flamengo 1, Portuguesa 1 match, which had a blatant penalty at the end. First refereeing mistake against Flamengo in the Carioca Championship. Thanks, David.
Thanks. We're together, Papa. Whenever you need, we're here. That's how it is.
That's it. Tuned in. How is it? Hey.
Hey, Paparazzo, what's up? It's really hot in here. This air conditioner is broken. We need to buy a new one. It's tough. This Globo shirt, this Globo biscuit shirt. Damn, I'm sweating here. Look, you could even wring it out. It's already crazy, crazy.
Thanks.
Despite conceding a goal, you performed well and used your feet often, which is one of your main strengths. What would you say about your game today against Portuguesa?
Yeah, first of all, good evening. I'm really happy about my debut. Debuting for Flamengo, a major milestone in Brazil, is a dream come true. And I think I played a good game. I did well with my feet, made safe plays. I think so. The most important thing was the team's performance. We played a great game. Leaving with a loss wouldn't have been fair. I'm happy with the win and the team's performance. Now we need to work for another win on Wednesday.
Leo, your father, the people from Calando Flaco interviewed your father. He said that for him it was the fulfillment of a dream to see you debuting there, scoring a goal for Flamengo. For you, man, how was this match?
For me, it's also an achievement. Since I was little, my father encouraged me to play and love soccer. He took me to Maracana as a child and encouraged me to support Flamengo. Now he gets to watch as I debut for Flamengo. It's a childhood dream, so I'm fulfilling it now as an adult, but still at 18 years old.
Leo, this draw feels like a loss, especially after that controversial ending. How are you feeling? How do you assess your overall performance this round, representing Flamengo in the professional Carioca?
I think we showed a lot of maturity to face a professional match. I think we managed to impose ourselves against Portuguese's team and play a good game. We had chances and could have been more precise to score. Now it's time to work because I'm sure we'll play even better against Bangu and win.